our recordings. Folks who are not here can check this out later. So anyway, we've gotten to know everybody. We're going to talk about what's going on in the Holy Land right now, but we're just going to do just a tiny bit of conversation about one of the things we do as we move from the Sea of Galilee area down to Jerusalem. We're going to be stopping at Jericho. So we will do some, this trip is primarily focused on the New Testament, but we will have some Old Testament, obviously. And Jericho is between Galilee and Jerusalem. And so we'll stop there. One thing we've done in trips past, we've taken a little gondola up to this monastery. We're not doing that. It takes too much time and I want more time in Jerusalem. So that's just a FYI. But nonetheless, we talk about Mount Arbel, where we're going to hike up to. And it's not a difficult hike, but you know, it is a few people have sometimes passed on it. But we hear this ending of the Gospel of Matthew. So it's called the Great Commission. Everybody, probably not everybody, but a lot of people have heard about it and know about it. Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee and to the mountain which Jesus had directed them. Now, which one did he direct them to? We don't know. But I tell you what, there's really only one mountain. There's a lot of hills around Galilee, but you know, I can't guarantee that this is the spot, but if I pulled up a map, you would see that the trade route is right below Mount Arbel that goes through the top of the Sea of Galilee and then goes up more to the north. I'm not so sure that this isn't the mountain that Jesus gathered his disciples and gave this Great Commission promise, lo, I'm with you always to the end of the age. So the other cool, so we're going to go up there, we're going to read this story, we're going to talk about this story some more when we're up there. And since we're going at the time we are, which is in the spring, the last time we went there, all the lilies were out blooming and the wildflowers, and so the mustard, you know, all the yellow mustard is out, and so lots of flowers. So it's a really beautiful time to walk up. But it's kind of the way this particular tour is working. Sometimes groups go up there first and then see everything. This will be cool because you'll be able to look down and say, oh, there's Magdala, oh, there's Capernaum, you know, and you'll be able to kind of see the locations. And so it's a really cool way to kind of say goodbye to the Sea of Galilee, and as we head down. So that's probably enough of just talking about our tour and you know where we're going. But like I say, we'll do some more on that. Questions or comments on that at all? Yeah. Okay. So we can transition now into what's happening in Israel, but also you know, like I say, I typically take at least one session, and then there'll be lots of conversations on our trip about the Israeli-Palestinian situation. So I just want to give you a little bit of information, some of my perspective, and then questions and comments and, you know, this type of thing. I know we're all wondering what will happen in 6 months when we're there. Is it 6 months now? Let me say this before I even go into the Palestinian-Israeli history and all that. In the past, when Hamas from the Gaza Strip has done stuff, pretty much everyone in Israel is going on like nothing has even happened. Once in a while, I'll shoot a rocket that gets somewhere near Tel Aviv, which is where we land, and we stay the first night. But it really, like, I don't know if it was the last time, but my first trip, there was a few little hot spots that people were calling and are you guys okay? And it's kind of like my mom used to do when I lived in Southern California and there was an earthquake, you know, like, are you okay? You know, it's like, anyway, but I'm not minimizing what's going on now at all. But so it you know, the security was so well done and it really didn't affect things. Obviously, this is a totally different situation, but even this, most of the places that the Hamas fighters burst through, were more local to Gaza. I don't think there was anything got to Jerusalem, but they don't know now because, they don't know where all these people went. And so they're very concerned about that. I have not heard from Russ, our CEO, what's happening to his tours right now, because I know he has people there. I think he's right now in Greece. He's with the group that's doing that trip. But I didn't want to, I thought about emailing him, but what's he gonna tell me? At this point, it's too early. So I don't know how what's happening now is affecting the people there. I know some airlines have canceled their flights into Tel Aviv. So this is a whole new thing. This is like 1970s scale, like the prime minister said, we're at war, and so this is different, and obviously this is very concerning, and I don't know what things will be like in 6 months. It's way too early to know whether this is gonna, stop us from going. I wish I could say, I don't know. I do know that I have a huge trust in Russ and faith-based expeditions and their people on the ground, their office there in Jerusalem, that they are, not going to put us in harm's way as best that anybody can do something. And there's obviously no guarantees in life about anything. But in the past, the incidents have been so few and far between, and like I say, hundreds of thousands, probably millions of people are still going to the Holy Land prior to this. But this is a whole different situation. So those are a few of my thoughts about the current thing. We'll come back to the current thing, but let me just go back and tell you a little bit about the lay of the land, because some of you are probably very educated about Israel and Palestinian conflict. Of course, we know go way back with the Olympics and the PLO, Palestine Liberation, and what was the leader? Yasser, thank you. Just wasn't coming to me. When I went to, you go back to after World War II, the United Nations created the current nation of Israel. Under the guise that the Holocaust never happened again, that the Jewish people needed a homeland. And of course, Jerusalem and, what we call the Holy Land was, their historic land. I think going back, the Ottoman Turks were in charge, and then the British took that over. And so they decided to kind of create this nation. Well, of course, as soon as they did, there were people that were displaced. There's still Arabs who lived in Palestine, who we can now call Palestinians, who fled to Jordan. And there's huge hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in Jordan that are still in refugee camps. They're still categorized for that. Obviously, a lot of Palestinians stayed, and then the solution was to have a two-state solution. So you got the Palestinians on the West Bank, and then you've got this area of Gaza. And so the two-state solution was what was trumpeted and hoped for and believed in. That's a lot of people have kind of given up on that, although I don't know what other, So that's where the trouble started. And of course, there were Egypt and Syria, attacked Israel, and it looked like Israel was not going to make it. But you can do your own reading on this. It's heroic and amazing that Israel survived, but largely because of the support of the United States. But at the first war, I think, what was that, the 6-Day War, was that called? Yeah. Really, it was American pilots who fought in World War II who were Jewish that then went to live in Israel that actually saved the day. They scrounged up planes from wherever they could find them, and it's pretty amazing that they were able to, keep their area there. So yeah, I'm just doing a little flow of consciousness here. So I'll just get our conversation going here, and then I'll stop and see your thoughts and comments and questions. So when I went to college, I'm knowing nothing about Israel, knowing nothing about Palestinians other than what I saw in the Olympics when the hostage thing happened. I met a woman named Haneda, who a student who was from Palestine, from the Holy Land, and she was a Lutheran Christian. She was going to California Lutheran University. And I remember because sometimes she'd have the shawl, the same kind of pattern that, you know, you saw with Yasser Arafat wearing all the time. And I heard a whole different story of what's been going on there. And I heard things through her lens. I mean, she had loved ones killed in the war with Israel, and she talked about how she was treated by Israeli soldiers. And I was like, whoa, I thought you guys were the bad guy, you know? Well, as it turns out, there through the Lutheran Church, there is a small, as Lutherans went and, you know, pretty much all denominations built something in Jerusalem. We all had to get our little claim, you know, and there's a beautiful church in Jerusalem, Lutheran Church, as well as there's the church Christmas Lutheran in Bethlehem, which is where we usually worship, which I can talk about that too. But so there is a small but pretty vibrant Lutheran Christian Palestinian group. Within the wider Muslim, most Palestinians are Arabs living in Palestine are Muslim, but there is also a strong Orthodox Christian community within the Palestinian community. So, so I heard things from Haneda's standpoint that was really interesting and kind of eye-opening. But, and so this little Lutheran Christian group of Palestinian, you know, Christians have served a pretty important role trying to be a bridge between the Arab Palestinians and, you know, the Jewish authorities and the Jewish people. So that was my first encounter with the Lutherans who lived there. And ironically, interestingly enough, in Lodi, California, my first congregation, one of my confirmands, one of my best and brightest, Megan Johnson was her name and is her name. And she went to seminary to be a pastor, and she met another young man who was one of a Palestine Lutheran Christian going to seminary, and they got married. And so I've also heard things a little bit from that perspective, from her husband's perspective, not a lot, but a little bit. And now Megan is pastor at the Lutheran Church in Jerusalem, which is really interesting. So should we be able to go and everything, I'm hoping we can connect with her. I can so now let's do some more here. So I can tell you that obviously the tension between Palestinians, no matter what their religious background, and Israel is really complex and tense and difficult. But I want to tell things a little bit from the Jewish people's side or from the Israeli side. So ever since Jewish people have been there, the Arab countries have not been happy about that. And they've made no bones that they want them gone. I think I've told you that Israel has to produce all their food, all their produce, because countries around them will not sell them. But Jordan, their relationship with Jordan has actually been really rocky at times, but has been pretty good. There's been good cooperation between Jordan. In fact, Israel and Jordan were working to solve the Dead Sea problem. I don't know if any of you watched the special on the Dead Sea on PBS a while back, but it was called The Dead Sea is Dying because they're using so much water, there isn't enough fresh water making it down. There's still a huge industry of the salt and all the minerals there, but they're trying to get some more water there, and they're actually exploring pumping water from the ocean into the Dead Sea. But they think it's going to change the chemistry for all you chemistry people, and it'll actually turn red. So, you know, so anyway, they're I don't know where that project is, but they've been working together in that way. Israel has been the in the forefront of the desalination efforts, because they have, created these plants in there. So, it's not as if everybody is like, we hate Israel, we don't want them there, but certainly this more radical contingent of the Palestinian community, which is known as Hamas, and there's other even worse, a few smaller groups that have been in the Gaza Strip, have been the most violent and the most aggressive in the recent history. The other Palestinians, Arabs who live in Israel, a lot of them live in what's called the West Bank. This is the area that through the United Nations was designated for them. And you go into those areas and they have different police. They have Palestinian police. So there's somewhat of a separation of government. Now they are more directed by the PL, the current PL, I guess. And they have not been nearly as violent, aggressive as Hamas has been. And so, so the Palestinian community, just like is not of one mind. What the Hamas has done, there are many Palestinians who are just horribly upset of what's happened, to see what these, terrorists are doing to people. And so it's a very complex situation. Some of the things that have happened that have really aggravated things is that the current government of Israel is been very upfront that they are moving into the areas that are not Jewish areas. And they're building the kibbutzes, these communities that according to the United Nations and whatnot are illegal. So, and of course, the Jewish people say, well, no one was living there anyway. But anyway, so there we go. And we have the battle and you fight. But that has really been provoking, or heightening, I don't know if provoking is the right word, but heightening tensions. The hard line of of Hamas is that Israel shouldn't be there, and there's no compromise, there's nothing, we're gonna get rid of Israel. And so where do you go with that? Well, that's gonna be a war. Gaza, because there's so much violence, has been really, a lot of people call it as a huge prison because the security has been so tight, the average person can't get in and out of there. And they're stuck and things are not good. There's healthcare issues, there's all kinds of issues. But the UN is there. There are humanitarian efforts. Now when did they build the fence and the wall? Anybody remember? It's been many years ago. I don't know, at least 10 years, maybe 15. That's part of my, that I don't know exactly when, but this was a very controversial thing. Because what it did is, in order to prevent violence and terrorists getting into the main hubs of Israel, Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and all these other communities, they fenced things off. And so you could only get into those areas through really tight security. And there are many Palestinians who worked on the other side of the fence. And so then now they can't go to work, or they have to go to work and wait 3 hours to get through for one day and 3 hours to go back. Hospitals are on the other side of the wall and the fence. So healthcare becomes an issue. Your wife's having a baby and you have to sit in the checkpoint. Conceptually, it's very hard, it's very disruptive. And Bethlehem, right below Jerusalem, is on the other side. It's in the Palestinian controlled area. So this fence has been really controversial. I've had some people call it like apartheid or something. There's a few people in our congregation that said, I just won't go because I'm not supporting Israel with what they're doing, etc. I think that Israel is a democracy. It's not a theocracy. It is not biblical Israel. Biblical Israel had a king and God was the ruler, and current day Israel is a democracy. It's an important democracy. It's an important nation. And I believe that the Jewish people, as we can see, never again, it's their slogan. And one of the last things we do is go to the Yad Vashem Museum, the Holocaust Museum, and you see that whole story. They really like people. They want people to go because, that event to them says this is why we need the nation of Israel, the current nation of Israel. So from the Jewish side, though, that fence or wall that you've seen in the pictures that the Hamas rebels and terrorists broke through, that's what I'm talking about. It kind of made a corridor to keep, for security. From the Jewish side, with the exception of what happened, I don't know, maybe 6-7 months ago, where a Palestinian man attacked some people in the synagogue, there almost has been no Jewish people killed since they built it. I mean, it really has been effective, as much as there's been really harmful things for people on both sides. From their perspective, we didn't have any bombs blowing up in marketplaces like we did before, or buses. So you have to go, wow, this horrible thing that's happening for Palestinian people, and yet, so obviously when you get to the Holy Land, you hear things from one person's perspective and you hear things from another person's perspective. So all of that is the lay of the land, and it's a challenge. It's horribly difficult. And like I say, the Israeli government has been so tight on security, and so obviously they didn't see this one coming, but this was not somebody getting into Jerusalem and doing a terrorist act. This was like they burst through the border and invaded kind of thing. So this is a totally different deal. This is, I mean, if we were there, we would probably have to come home. I don't know exactly what's happening, but I don't know that for sure, because like I say, this is maybe the other thing I will say, is it's hard to get the right information. And if you can go to some Jewish sites and read their newspapers, that's a good thing. Everything is biased, but it's a good thing, because I can say that my experience of being there and then seeing the American media, just like in anything, it makes it sometimes, I'm not talking about this current one, but the prior incidents that happened made it blow it way out of proportion. But I'm not saying that's going on now. So anyway, I don't know. There's some of my thoughts on the Palestinian-Israeli situation. What are your thoughts or your comments or?
Question.
Please.
How far south did we plan to go? Or how close to Gaza did we plan to go?
Yeah, not close at all. So if you look at, we're just right in Jerusalem. So Gaza's way down here and Jerusalem's up, and quite a long distance. I don't think the rockets that they talk about have the range to get to Jerusalem. They do have the range to get to Tel Aviv, though. Yeah. So we would not be going anywhere near the Gaza Strip, which is the classic thing that we talk about. Is like that problem, the stuff you're seeing is in Gaza or by Gaza, and it's still to some degree the case. But yeah, so it'll be interesting, and I will definitely email you anything that I hear from Russ about things. So yeah, great question. Yeah. And then also Galilee never had any struggles up there. One of the towns, it's the other name, Tiberias, is mostly a Muslim city, and so there hasn't been problems in that regard. So yeah, please, Charles. Oh, over here. Yeah.
I have a friend from August Day in Gig Harbor, and
Yeah.
she's on a cruise. And 2 days ago, they were getting ready to go on a tour in Nazareth. And then they got a phone call and said, back on the ship. And so then they had 2 days at sea.
2 days at sea. Yeah. And of course, with all that's going on, don't want anybody there. Yeah. So yeah, that's helpful. Yeah, I'm assuming that's what they're doing to keep people safe. And yeah, please.
So when we're there, not given the current situation, but when we're there will be Palestinians or other, because you said you just said it was somewhere mostly Muslim people.
Tiberias.
There'll be
Yeah,
in Israel, there still is a mixture of.
there is. See, not all, so in fact, this is to show the stark difference. In and around Jerusalem, as you look at, in Jerusalem itself, there are Muslim communities. Jerusalem is quartered off into the Armenian, Christian, Muslim, and Jewish quarter. So we'll walk through the Muslim quarter and the Jewish quarter. So there has been a lot of coexistence, which has not been violent and difficult, but there obviously is that. When we go to Bethlehem, we actually are, so like Boaz, our tour director, he's licensed for Israel. When we go to Bethlehem, we're handed off to a different tour director who's Palestinian, who, you know, again, knows the lay of the land. He's Orthodox, at least the person we've gone with before is an Orthodox Christian. And so, you know, so there's partnership and working together. So I was gonna say, the way you notice the difference between a Jewish house and a Muslim house is the Muslims have, everybody has water tanks on their houses. To, you know, that they, I don't know, it's like we have one big tank that gives us water pressure. Everybody has their own kind of area. The Jewish ones are white and the Muslims are dark black. And so you can tell, oh, that's a Muslim house or whatever. And then, of course, you'll see the mosques everywhere.
Will we, so that we don't, so that if we're going and we're gonna be interacting with these different, are we gonna, is there any, like, you know, any do's and don'ts? Kind of
Yeah.
what you do, what you don't do,
Yeah.
any faux pas, so you don't offend anybody or
Yeah.
something like that?
Yeah.
Will we get that kind of information?
If there, I don't remember ever being given, hey, don't say this, you know, this type of thing. I would, you know, our guide Boaz, what I really liked about him is he really stuck with the Bible and stuck with the places, and he wasn't too political. Had other guides that had a little of an axe to grind. Not many of them have liked Netanyahu, by the way. It's like this country, it's democracy, this is the way it goes. But, so yeah, we would let you know that. I would probably, if we can worship with Christmas Lutheran, there might be some things I would share, you know, we really want to listen and not, you know, be like, yeah, but what about this, you know, just really listen and hear, which I know everybody can do anyway. So it's a great question, and I know, and a very sensitive and loving one. And so, we'll let you know, but there really isn't any like, be careful not to do this or that. There might be when we go this next time, but yeah, please, yeah.
I lived in the Middle East for 2 years.
Yeah, please.
And in a very predominantly Muslim country.
Yeah.
And the only things I can say that you realized and accepted was, you know, for women, you really wanted to have your shoulders covered.
Yes.
And if you actually had the opportunity to go into some of the mosques, which I did, you
Yes.
needed to have your head covered.
Yeah. Yep.
There was no great feeling of, you know, being outcast. The country that I lived in fact, had an area that the country itself had donated and designated where all the different churches, Christian, Jewish, had their churches where they could go and worship.
Yeah.
And, but there was no feeling of, you know, I'm out of place. I
Yeah.
need to be worried
Right.
about whatever. That just literally never happened.
Yeah.
Like I say, this is a predominantly Muslim country.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a country that quite frankly was not crazy about Israel.
Right. Sure.
And
Well,
so
very few of them are. So.
you had mentioned, for people that wanted to travel to Israel, you couldn't fly,
Mhm.
but Jordan, as you said, acted as a middleman, a branch, and you could travel to Israel by going into Jordan and then going into Israel.
Yeah. Yep. Those of you who signed up for the extension, again, assuming everything goes, you're going into Jordan, so, and that's kind of a cool thing to experience, so, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning about, just meaning, just be cordial and
Absolutely.
just don't say anything, that's what I meant, understand the conflict and
Yeah.
also the terrorist organization.
Right.
So they're not just focused on Israel, they are in that area, but Hamas has committed terror attacks all over the world.
Yeah,
They
right.
are a large
Yeah.
terror
Yeah.
group,
Yeah,
and have attacked armed forces.
sure. No, it was a good question, and I appreciate that response, because it does remind me, if we do get to go into the Temple Mount, which is always get there, see what's happening. Women, and you'll get this ahead of time, have to have certain, dress code and stuff. Yep. Please,
As Americans, should we be more concerned in some of these areas that are Palestinian?
right. We are only gonna be in the Palestinian Authority areas. And the only places are Jericho and Bethlehem. And I think my short answer is no, because there's so many European people and so many people from all over the world that I don't know that we would need to be more nervous or worried. Yeah.
See, I don't think that I wouldn't think that any of the Palestinian or Muslim communities in Israel are aligning themselves with a terrorist organization.
Yeah, no, and it is very complex. That's right. Now, a lot of Palestinians don't look at it that way. They don't think they're terrorists. They think they're fighting for the independence of their people and all this, but I think most do. But there's just all kinds of different views within the Palestinian community. I can tell you this, so I don't think so, Ellen. I mean, that's certainly a question I'll bring to Russ, and as we continue to ponder, as we get closer, what the situation is. I mean, it could be resolved in a month and everything's back, or it could be, something bigger. So I pray it won't be, but, so no, there are so many people there. I've just never felt like, there's Americans there, and stuff like that.
But you don't wanna be like wearing.
Yeah, probably don't wear
USA, a trunk pad.
Yeah.
USA hat.
right.
For a bunch of.
Although that's-
Luggage.
Yeah, those are good things. Yeah. Again,
Don't order cheeseburgers.
get some of that good falafel and. So let me say something that I was reminded of. So it's the conviction of the Lutheran Christians who are Palestinians there. That it's getting harder and harder to be Christian in the Holy Land. It's harder to get the sites, that there is more animosity, not just from the Palestinian Arab side towards Christians, but from Jewish people towards Christians. And so they have expressed concern about that. It used to be like 15% of the people that lived in Jerusalem were Christian. Now it's like down to 3% or something like that. So that's a concern they like to talk about and try and educate people on. Again, because tourism is the bread and butter, one of the bread and butter of Israel. They're very supportive of people coming there and being there. So, yeah. Thanks, Charles.
Can you easily categorize the Armenian quarter in Jews?
Yes.
Christian?
Armenia is Christian, yes. Yeah. Well, yes, it is. Yeah. And you'll know, what's that?
More Orthodox, right?
More Orthodox, yeah, the Orthodox Christian side of things. That would be fun. We can do some history as we get closer on Jerusalem and the four quarters, and it actually goes back to when the Romans took over. They always had a cardio, isn't that what they call the middle street that they always put in every city. And anyway, so that really goes back, way back, that kind of division. But you'll know, you don't have to know, are we in the Muslim quarter or the Jewish quarter? Because you'll know. The Jewish quarter is spotless. Not so with some of the others, so anyway, it's just something I've observed, not a judgment about it, but, yeah, please,
Given, it's always unsettled,
yes.
given things don't have a major event, and realizing it's fluid. Is there a drop dead date when you analyze the situation nominally before the trip starts?
Yeah,
About a month before or whatever?
yeah, I'm trying to think of when your final payment is, or your big December, yeah. So, that's gonna be an important one, but that doesn't mean you can't, if, you know, if something were to happen between December and the start of the trip, you know, like something that's like happened now, though, that money, of course, is refunded, but, it's probably gonna be, okay, I'm gonna be telling you, this is what I'm being told by my tour. I'm gonna go, my wife's gonna go, and then it's gonna be your decision. But I'm gonna try and give you absolutely everything I can, so you feel like you're making a good decision about whether you continue to go. But, you know, so I would think by December, and Russ may even, if need be, push that off a little bit, although I think that's a pretty hard date typically because of the airline tickets and all of that. You know, we should definitely know a really clear picture by then, how this is all gonna pan out. So, yeah. And you know, again, I hate to be, but I know they're gonna wanna get this squared away as soon as possible. If this escalates, who knows what will be, but so that's gonna be an important date, but you know, that's the other good reason to get their trip insurance.
Does it include trip insurance? Does it include protection for war and civil unrest and all that?
Yes, it does. All of those things are covered. And, you know, yes. But I'm gonna ask him about, like, let's say someone just feels like it's too unsafe, I'm not comfortable going. Does it cover that situation?
Yeah.
I need to ask that one. So I know it's better trip insurance than what I got for our trip to our vacation coming up in 2 weeks to Mount. Refused our claim not to go, so, because we're just a little bit behind that where we were gonna stay, and they said, sorry, he didn't make it mandatory, so. So I said, okay. It worked out, but that wasn't the greatest of triggers. So, but this is way more plus and better. Georgia, yeah.
So you you mentioned that it's going to be springtime then. I was kind of wondering about dress code.
Yeah.
Way much summer things.
Yes, it's going to be very much kind of like here in the spring, but actually way drier, not as wet and rain. Sorry. Temperature wise, it's really, you know, it might even get warm some days, but you know, of course you never know, but it's, you know, shorts, casual, completely casual. There's no dress up real need. Be very comfortable. I usually take pants that have a little zipper that I can make them shorts. Sometimes I do that. Good pair of tennis shoes, you know, a layer for evening. As I recall, because I pretty much only got in the spring, the only time I need the layers when we walk through Jerusalem at night or take a walk at night or something.
Seventh day of the last one.
Oh, it was raining, wasn't it? It was raining.
Like
Oh.
days that were like Seattle.
See, I thought, yeah.
Your sensory state.
Yeah, but you can get rain and it can be windy, a little cold. So you're gonna wanna have like a windbreaker or a layer or two, you know, to take with you. But for the most part, it's t-shirts and shorts or pants, comfortable pants. What's that?
Do we need insect spray?
I don't remember needing any insect spray. Sunscreen, yeah, good. So, please, Chris.
So on the list of hotels,
Mhm.
there's a gap. And I haven't looked in the last few weeks, so I don't know if it's been updated or not. But I know that there was some talk about going to that center.
Yeah, Bangalore.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's why there's a gap there, because it's undecided, or if they just overlooked it, or
Do you
you might check on
do you
that.
remember?
It's like a 3-day gap, right? In the hotel list.
Is that in Tiberias? Is
Huh?
that beginning?
Was that at the beginning or at the end of?
So it's like it's after the second hotel stay.
Yeah, so that's
Before the
probably,
third one.
that's probably what that is. We have reservations in Tiberias, but I think he's wanting to
Yeah,
get us into the,
well, but Tiberias was on there,
okay.
so it was in that, yeah, but
I'll check it.
Check it.
I didn't even notice that. I just saw the list of hotels and,
yeah.
and I just. Yes, yeah, they have been, 4-star hotels.
Well, and I applaud you're working with this company, because so I don't know if everybody, we're going a little bit early.
Yeah.
And they actually contacted me directly and said that they'll pick us up at the airport,
Yeah,
make the transfer to the hotel we're staying at in Tel Aviv ahead of
Yeah.
time, and then transfer us to the Renaissance with everybody else
yeah,
on that day, which I didn't expect, so
yeah.
that's really.
They're used to that, people coming early or staying on and going somewhere else, and they do take care of that transportation that you're doing. Yes.
One less thing to worry about.
Yeah, yeah, so, yeah. How we doing? Yeah. I applaud you for being here. I totally respect, the concerns. You don't want to put yourself at risk to something like this. And I can say I will, to the best of my ability, have all the information I can for you. And like I say, I have a high degree of trust in Russ and our tour company when it comes to our safety in that regard. So, but it's still a tough decision. Yep. Yeah, so, yep. Let's see, is there anything else I forgot? Hey, folks at home, did you have any thoughts that you wanted to throw in there? No? You're good?
The power conversion, I mean, basically just.
Yeah, good. Yeah, some more detail. So you're gonna get in your packet a power converter.
Oh. okay.
When you get when it gets closer, you're gonna get a packet with a little, thing on Israel tour book. And some other things to put, like
List too.
what's that? I think, yes, yeah, there's a little bit of a pack list in there, things recommended. And then, you'll get your a power converter, and then that'll also tell you if you have other ones, which ones work.
different, yeah.
Because Israel is different.
Yeah.
It's not like the European converter, it's different. Yeah, but, I forget what it looks like, but I got a lot of. You'll get one, but it isn't a bad thing to have more than one, because you have other things to charge, and all of that. I think you get one per person, yes, so if you're marital situation, yes.
Cell phones were, you said.
Yeah. Get the SIM card.
SIM cards,
Will they give those at the airport?
so good question, I don't know that, I've just done the international plan with Verizon, because I wanted to have a little
Yeah.
data, but
Some companies don't get the offer now, so you need to get an international
you
SIM
need to
card.
get an international SIM.
He can use like, like WhatsApp, if you need to make phone calls and if you're in Wi-Fi, then use that.
So if you,
But, yeah.
yeah, so if you,
They have Wi-Fi.
yes, that's.
They can use social media.
You
stuff.
can.
Talk to Amanda in Australia.
Yeah,
Video
yeah.
call,
Yeah,
thing through
yeah.
Messenger.
Yeah, you can use Messenger and you can use Wi-Fi calling, I think. I don't know, it depends, I don't know how that works. But there is Wi-Fi in the hotels. Of course, it's a big group one and it depends, and there is Wi-Fi on the bus. But that's something we gotta talk about. Because if everybody gets on the Wi-Fi, it doesn't work. I'm just kidding. But we have to, if it works well enough for folks, we won't make a thing of it. But since we're a pretty good group of 40 plus, we will want to be thinking about that. So I hope maybe somebody can do some research, or maybe somebody knows about the SIM card thing. Yeah, please.
I
Yeah.
have successfully just gone on good old Amazon and looked at, said what country I needed a SIM card for and gone ahead and ordered it and never had any trouble, and I've traveled all over.
Wow. So just use Amazon, say you're going to Israel.
Look at the ones for advertising, compare the prices, and then look at the remarks that go with it, because some SIM cards work better in some areas and other SIM cards work better in others.
Right, interesting. That's
Easy
cool.
peasy, you've got a cell phone that functions and you're just fine there.
Love it, love it. Yeah. Thanks for that question on I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because also like the data plans, like with AT&T or they're not that good. You don't get that much data, but
SIM card.
SIM card is the way to go. So I'll have to look, I'll be looking into that. Now, the newer iPhone doesn't have a SIM card.
They acknowledge that too, and you are able to, once again, purchase something that's gonna work with whatever type of phone.
Okay.
That's a virtual.
A virtual SIM
Virtual
card.
SIM cards.
Yeah, yeah, the newer iPhones, I don't know, 13, I think mine is the last one, I got 13, I think the 14 and 15 don't have them because people are stealing iPhones and they can't really get in your phone, but they can get your SIM card, see, and that's, yes, please.
Let's try good nights.
Yeah,
You're the only one who wants Rick.
good for you.
Is there a central contact, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely.
At the.
Yeah, we can get you, the faith-based expeditions number, and then probably we'll give you my number as well, because I'll, so absolutely, you can be off the grid. Love it, love it, love it. Yes, please. Passports.
So I don't know how Israel is. I know in some other places in Europe and when you check into the hotel, they take your passport.
Yeah.
So.
Never had that happen before, yeah. And that's a good thing though to mention that most of the hotels, I'm pretty sure that will have the little safe.
Yeah.
And that's what I've never taken my passport with me. You're with the tour, you're with, so, I put that passport in the safe, but just don't forget to take it out of there when you go to the next hotel. So maybe, that's what I do and.
You don't carry it on your.
I don't, but you can, of course, but that may be the safest place for it, but I typically put it in the safe and, yeah.
One of the trips that John and I took, it was a case of where they suggested you have a photocopy of your passport.
Yeah.
also.
Okay, thanks for mentioning that. I do encourage you to bring a photocopy. I think we will have Russ make, because I think all of you have sent your passport to him, a copy of a picture of it. If you haven't done that, that's probably something that's gonna happen soon. He'll look at our whole group and say, okay, and he'll want, I think you already put in your passport number, but.
It's a
yeah.
number that you put in on the website.
Yeah.
No, I don't, that could be something that he hasn't done yet, but he might ask for that. So then if he doesn't do it, I'm probably gonna ask to have a copy of everybody's anyway, as the trip leader, I think.
Another good thing to do, is to, take pictures of all that or photocopy it and email it to yourself. That way, if you can access your email from
You
somewhere,
can print it.
out.
That's a good thing as well. Yep, good. It's all good practical things that we're gonna forget. No, but I'm just kidding.
Medication.
Yeah,
Some of us take a lot of medication.
yeah,
Our, original container, not original, when we went to Scotland, we didn't put any of them in the original containers, but we carried a list authorized by our doctor of what.
Yeah.
we took.
Yeah.
Because for the sake of size,
Right.
if I got 10 bottles, I don't wanna,
yeah,
do you know if there's?
We have not had any issues with people, bringing their meds in their own little plastic,
Oh, okay.
daily containers.
Okay,
But that is a really good question for us to ask as we get closer.
yeah.
Because, you cannot. And then, of course, as make sure you put all your medications
Carry on.
on the carry-on, yeah. And you'll want to, have an extra set of clothes in your carry-on. These are all things we'll go over again when we get closer, but occasionally luggage is lost for a day. But this is the great thing, you aren't gonna have to worry about it. Their people will be on the airline, where's the luggage, and they'll make sure that you get it. That happened in our Greece trip.
Have you ever traveled with just carry-on? Like, backpack that fits in the overhead? Have any of you guys?
That's all I travel with. I don't
That's
have
what we do.
bags.
Yeah, if you're able to pull that off, God bless you. Yeah.
wash things in the sink.
Yeah, well, that's right. If you bring the right clothes, just do that and it'll be dry. Yeah, yeah. Tom?
Tour, like Israeli parachute.
Yes. Yeah, thanks for reminding us of that. That's right. He is a former paratrooper and yeah, really. And he's awesome. He's a super guy on camp. We're so thankful to get to have him. So, yeah, no, these are good little logistic things. I'm trying to think. Some people want to know about travel and then we'll finish up here. As far as to and from the airport, I think this already came up once, but I have not. I've really just put you getting to the airport in your hands. We can, however, rent or get a group that's gonna take the airport. Like the youth have done this, I have no problem. I don't wanna do it, like be the one in charge of it, but if there's a group of folks that want to talk about, you know, everybody taking an airporter together. And then, you know, I think that the airporter does do that kind of service. I don't know if you have to have a minimum number or something, but that is something, and I like that because that gets everybody there. You know, it's international flight, so you're there 3 hours ahead. You know, in the past, we've gone and spent the night at a hotel, so we just get up and get on their bus to the airport, but I don't even remember when our flight goes out, so. It's in the evening, so that was, you know, yeah.
We have all medical emergency would be handled. So we can talk to providers and the process would be to that.
A great question. Thank you for bringing it up. So medical emergencies, your trip insurance covers you, but you go to the hospital and you pay. And then you are reimbursed for that, is my understanding of the way that goes. You're like my health insurance, this is the other reason to get trip insurance. My health insurance doesn't pay in Israel. They're not gonna reimburse me. If I have a problem and I have to go to an Israeli hospital, which they're really good hospitals and really good healthcare in Israel, but it's my understanding, unless you have a different agreement with your health insurance, that it doesn't cover that. So again, that's why the trip insurance, and then it does cover that. And that, again, that's also why I encourage, because Russ, you know, really, he's vetted this and they use it all the time. And so that is the way a medical emergency is handled. They will get you there. Like when we have had a few medical issues, nothing too serious. And Russ and his office, you know, meet with the person, get them to the hospital. If they need to go to the hospital. I think Peggy Grigg was the challenge, had a fall or an injury or something, I forget, but, and they get you to they take care of it. They get you to the hospital and the whole business, but you do have to, I think, pay, you know, be responsible for the pay. It's not like going to the hospital self-pay here though. So, but anyway, yeah, Jill, can you help me out here? You probably know more about that.
No, I don't, but is there one credit card over another that would be better? No, nobody's gonna carry enough money to pay a
Right.
hospital bill.
Yeah, I've just used my Visa cash rewards and it's been fine, yeah.
Visa, American Express, those do.
I haven't tried American Express there. I've just used Visa, but has anybody that's been on one of the other trips tried American Express?
Well, it's just in another country,
Yeah,
your Costco, if you have a Costco Visa, the city Visa, doesn't charge international transaction fees.
right. That's something else to be mindful of.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have, when you talk about the signature cash back card, I'm guessing that's Kids App.
No, it's just B of A.
Oh, okay, the Kids App Credit Union, they charge international transaction fees, so every time you use your card, they're going to tack a couple of bucks onto it, so it can get really expensive if you use your card a lot.
And I'll give you an updated, how much how much money you should take and how much you should get at the airport or get at your bank as far as, what is Israel? It's,
Shekels.
shekels, yeah.
Very little.
Yeah, I almost have used no shekels.
Right.
When I've gone, I've just used my card for everything. There's a few spots though, like in Bethlehem, where the only place we don't have lunch schedule is the day we go to Bethlehem, because I wanted us to get some really good street food and just get it on the way, and
Well, that's
that you will need some shekels for.
That is.
Yeah.
Can I just make a comment about medical insurance?
Please.
Oftentimes when Tom and I travel, we don't buy the expensive trip insurance, and we have been burned on that several times.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always buy though, is I go on Square Mount, which is a trip insurance clearinghouse. And you can go on there and find medical insurance for overseas trips, and it's really quite reasonable. Like, you know, this trip would probably be $200 for Tom and myself. But what this will only cover is true medical emergencies. You realize that they cover up to $1 million to ship you back from overseas.
Yeah.
And we all go, $1 million? Let me tell you, if you are over there and we run into a terrorist attack and they are trying to get us back on a medevac, some kind of vehicle, plane, it's a fortune.
Yeah, that's,
And I would say to everybody in this room, you better make sure you have medical insurance. And it could be that cheap one, or it could
Well,
be the.
I can double check this, but my understanding is our trip insurance through Faith-Based
Right, and it-
Expedition
and-
does cover
And Tom and I.
taking you home.
Yeah.
And that's, and,
Because you want.
yeah.
Brings your body back.
yes.
So,
Everybody's out. Yes, so no, but if you were to break your leg or something and you had to be, you had to have a special trip back, the trip insurance covers all. That's why I encourage you to get it. And Russ tells a story of a young guy who jumped off the Prefer and Caesarea Maritima that just really hurt himself and did not get the trip insurance. And yeah, it's really, really costly. So get the trip insurance, the $300 or $400 it costs is well worth it. That's correct. So I can double, triple check the medical situation of our current trip insurance. Yeah, so you got his, good. Yeah, make sure you got it. Good point. Okay, we're over time, but this has been great. Let me close.
Some good.
Yeah, please take some good deal. They've got gluten free. Sorry, everybody at home. Hey, thanks folks for, chiming in here and zooming in. Go in peace, serve the Lord. Thank you. Or, yes, sure. And of course. I think like, yeah. Like. I'm like,
He started.
Well, were you knowing that we had meetings? Fisher.
Maybe it went into your junk.
Well, they took care of it. If you emailed me, I remember them. I got it.
Okay, so
Ian,
stuff,
somewhere,
little backup.
Catch up.
yeah. I,
Words are. Get there, we could catch up.
I'm gonna.
So who's backup?
It's not me,
I'm sure.
just emailing my office. I just, I don't work here. Yeah. Or, yeah. If you want to, you email him and say. Bill, your team.
Yeah. Balance this.
It's still. Well. So.
Okay.
All the. Yeah. Don't worry. He's so. Anyway, well. Don't think we'll be taken. Because you're always has the. Okay, so. Okay, so you have you guys use.
Okay.
Maybe Bobby should be the.
Suzanne. Yeah. Yes. Well. This there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be close enough.
Okay. And also go. Over there. Yeah, so Galilee.org. But what I use. First thing when they get you on there, the website and the resources are, so.
We have pictures.
Yes, it's SOC at sort of this. Yeah. Well, if you send it to me. Get you in the loop. Yeah, there's a church out, Kemp, this is my iPad at the moment, so. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's very handy.